for any new people in the Zoom room, my name is Andre Levin, and I'm going to be talking about using MTA turnstile data to see if we can learn something about work from home trends in New York. And I chose the subtitle because there's going to be a lot of histograms in this presentation. Some might even say too many histograms, but we'll see. So our imaginary but still highly valued client is a company called NSFW, which of course stands for Necessary Supplies for Work from Home. And they sell exactly that, things like standing desks, lumbar support pillows, external monitors, things of that nature. Now, as a result of the pandemic transitioning to home, and NSFW has asked me to analyze which NYC neighborhoods in particular have seen the biggest rise in work from home, so they can sell them more NSFW products. So my strategy for this project was to look at 4 months of data, half before COVID and half now. And in order to make the most apples to apples comparison that I can think of, I decided to look at April and May in 2019 on one hand, and then April and May of 2021, so the most recent data. And to capture some sort of proxy for quantifying work commuters, I looked at station at entry counts of by station, specifically on weekday mornings. So Monday through Friday, and then in the data, mornings are usually indicated by there's an 8 a.m. and a 12 p.m. Readout, but of course there's some people mentioned there's a 7-Eleven and there's all sorts of weird numbers. So I basically just grabbed that everything between 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. on weekdays, and then I just took the average after doing some cleaning. So now we get to our first histogram, and you can see over here that I've plotted on the y-axis is just the number of daily entries on the x-axis is the number of daily entries. And on the y-axis, we see the number of stations that have, this amount of daily entries. And the legend didn't really come out right, but I think you can probably figure out what's the pre-COVID data and what's the post-COVID data. There's a dramatic loss of riders over the course of COVID. So let's try to quantify that a little bit better. I basically decided to look at two metrics to quantify this change in ridership. One is just the absolute number decrease, and the other is the percentage decrease. In other words, what percent of the pre-COVID totals are we seeing? And numbers you can see anywhere from 0 to around 5,000, and then there's this long tail out to 40,000. And on the percentage side, we see, there's a 70% net decline, but it's pretty spread out from about 50 to 90% among the different stations. So I went ahead and just plotted the 20 stations with the largest net decrease of morning commuters. And if you look closely at the actual stations here, you can see that there's a lot of, Grand Central Station, Port Authority, Penn Station, Times Square, things that are, clearly not residential neighborhoods, but still had a big, change in ridership. So I wanted to try to, basically filter my data and just focus on neighborhoods, residential neighborhoods, rather than giant commuter hubs, which I thought would add noise to my data. So I applied to do this, I basically applied a series of 3 increasingly draconian filters on my data to try to weed out some of this spurious stations. The first thing I did was I looked at the total entries, and I basically just removed all the stations that had a very large amount of entries. I figured those are just commuter hubs. Next, I looked for each station. I looked at how many lines it service, and the answer there is anywhere from 2 to it's moved over. It should be from 1 to 12. So I figured that a station like Grand Central that has probably 12 lines coming out of it is not what we need. So I removed the stations with 9 or more lines. And then my final filter, possibly the most suspect, but I thought it was interesting, was I looked at not just entries, but I looked at the exits too. And I wanted to quantify to see if the morning entries are bigger than the morning exits. I figured that if it's a really residential neighborhood, then there's gonna be more people leaving than people entering. Whereas if it's a place like the financial district, or Times Square, you're gonna have a lot of people coming in rather than leaving. So I basically just removed all of the stations that have more people, that have a negative outflow, as it were. And then let's see what happens when we, put all those filters together. This was our original data with all the Times Squares and the Port Authorities. And then after the filters applied, we see some stations which, I don't really recognize, which I think is a good sign. But, native New Yorkers probably have more to say about this. To actually have a recommendation for a client so they can sell NSFW products. I wanted to look at which stations were in the top 20 of both number decrease and percentage decrease. And I found 7 such stations, which are listed over here. And if you look closely, or if you Google them like I did, you see that 2 of them in the center here are in Queens and the other ones are in New Jersey. And I thought it was curious that they're all, the Queens ones are all on the NQW line and the New Jersey ones are on the 1 line. So I'm not entirely sure what that means. There could be something shady going on. But anyways, that's my recommendation without the benefit of further analysis. And then just to mention a few things that didn't go into analysis that are potential pitfalls. Obviously. Okay.
I'm just letting you know that's 6 minutes.
Just these are some.
But I'm going to let you complete.
Okay.
Go ahead and go ahead and finish this slide. But I was just going to let you know that's 6 minutes. Go ahead.
Okay, literally my last slide. I was just gonna say a few things that I didn't, that are confounding variables are, people aren't just, a lot of people are not commuting to work, not because they're working from home, but because they actually lost their jobs. So how do you quantify that? Some people are not taking the subway because it's unsafe. Instead, they're biking, to Rahul's chagrin, or they're walking. And then, of course, over the course of 2 years, I'm sure the MTA changed a whole bunch of stuff. It might be easier to get from point A to point B by some other route in certain situations. Of course, population densities change over time and tourism changes over time. So with that, I thank you for your attention and I'm open to questions.